Hey everyone, it's Marlene here. Today is a very special series that revolves around mental health and disability, and we will be focusing on the blind. I'm very delightful today because I have a gorgeous young lady with us for this sharing session. Her name is Charissa Chong. Karissa studied diploma in mass communication and decided to be a full-time social media content creator because of her passion in creativity, and she sees an opportunity to build something on it. She also aspired to have her own fitness coaching business one day. I met Karissa more than 5 years ago when I was doing a lot of charity pageant organizing, and she eventually won the national pageant MGIM, which gave her the right to represent Malaysia in Japan for Miss International. She also represented Malaysia in Korea for Miss World University and Miss ASEAN in Thailand. On top of these achievements under her belt, she's also a very good singer and plays the guitar very well. And the most important thing about Karissa is that she's a very humble and thoughtful person. I'm looking forward to hear from Karissa about the blind and how it can impact a person's mental health. How, Karissa?
Hi, thank you so much, Marlene, for that long but beautiful introduction of me. I can't sing, but I'm only a bathroom singer. Yeah.
Now, Karissa, thank you so much for agreeing to be part of this sharing session. Can you share with us how and why did you get involved in advocating for the blind?
Okay, how did I get involved in advocating? For me, it was because my mom personally is blind. So it was something that we battled through many years ago when we first found out that she had this disease called retinitis pigmentosa. So it's a disease that is genetic and there's no cure for it, and you just gradually lose your eyesight. So right now we've done our research, we've seen doctors, we went to specialists. There is currently no cure for it yet so far. So because I had that personal experience with my mom and that journey was not easy, it gave me a purpose. It gave me a reason to want to advocate for the blind. Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much. It sounds very personal and yet so inspirational because now you're not just doing it for your mom, but also for the blind community.
Yeah.
I read that a person being blind and visually impaired is two different things. Can you elaborate further on that? I'm not sure, I might be wrong.
Okay, so there are actually, if I'm not mistaken, there are three categories to a person being blind. So the first category is like maybe you're blind in one eye, so you have the other eye that where you still can see, or maybe your vision is just slightly blurry. The second one is where you're partially blind, meaning you can't see anything, but you are able to see light, shadows, shapes, objects, but you don't know what it is. And the third one is where you are completely blind. So there is no sense of light, shape, object, shadows, just darkness. So yeah, three categories. So I think visually impaired is to sum up the three categories of the blind people. So we usually don't say blind, but we use the word visually impaired as it's more friendlier. Yeah, I would say at least. Yeah.
Thank you for that explanation. And you mentioned like one of the cause for blind is the disease that your mom had. I can't pronounce that word. It's quite complicated. But what are the other causes that can cause blindness in Malaysia?
Okay, I don't know all of it, but yes, the one that my mom has is very, very hard to pronounce. It's called retinitis pigmentosa, but for short, it is RP. So R for rat, P for pencil. So you can actually Google and search it up. So one of it is that. And second would be glaucoma. Glaucoma is very common as well, I think. And also, there are others where I actually had a talk with this man at a charity run that I went for the blind, and he actually shared with me his story of how he became blind, and it was actually through a very sad, unfortunate story, which was an accident. You know, he was a businessman and he was a very, very hard worker, and then one day he just went into an accident and he it severely damaged his face and including his eyes. So that was how he became blind. So there are a lot of sad stories as well through accidents that made them blind. Another one was an uncle that I met. He was blind since he was a baby, but that was because he had a very high fever. And I'm not sure what was the disease called, but that caused him to lose his eyesight ever since then. But those kind of disease, there are certain diseases that can be prevented. And not a lot of people know about this. Not a lot of people know that you can actually avoid blindness, you know. And people tend to take this for granted, and including me, until I saw my mom got it through genetics. Yeah.
And you mentioned that the one that your mom got is actually genetically caused. So does that mean that you might have a chance to get it as well?
Unfortunately, yes. I actually went with my mom to see several specialists about this disease, and they said that I might carry it. So I might be the carrier, or I might have it. So it's very important to always go for checkups for my eyes and see if there are any symptoms. Yeah. So what the doctor suggests is that if I am the carrier, if let's say I don't have the disease, I might be the carrier. So when I marry my spouse in the future, they have to get checked as well that they are not the carrier of this particular gene, because one gene and one gene mix, you know, your baby might be prone to having RP. Yeah.
Okay. Wow, that's it. You know, it's
It's a lot.
Yeah, it's kind of stressful to know that as well, isn't it?
It is. I think mentally wise, I'm not gonna lie, it did affect me a lot in my life, and I saw how it affected my mom's mental health as well. Because imagine, who would want to wake up one day knowing that you used to be able to see and now you might not be able to see anymore. You know, that thought is so scary. It's so much fear. You know, it makes a person feel like, how can I live my life? You know, I've been depending on my sight to do everything, and now I'm going to lose it. You know, it's definitely mentally and emotionally heavy, you know, because there's so much to take in and you don't know how to cope with life.
Yeah.
And it's not just for the person who has the disease, it affects the person's surrounding as well, like the family members, because now you got to do things differently. Now you got to work your way around it, you know. Now your like my mom had to depend on me, you know, and when this happened, when we found out about it, I was only like in my early 20s. So it was very hard to take in. And you know, your early 20s is where you start to have fun with your friends, you go out, you go dating, you want to party and live your life as a 20-year-old, right? So when you know this, it kind of feels like, in a way, like a burden.
Yeah.
And it's not something you can just get rid of.
Yeah.
And you struggle to find solution for this. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. As a blind person, how did your mother break through the whole process? You mentioned that it was really hard, but how did she made it, you know, in the end? Like how did she accept it and go through it?
I think it honestly took a lot of time for her to accept it. It was honestly a journey. I would not lie and say that, you know, she just accepted it immediately. It took a very, very long time. It took us many years, 6 to 7 years, to really fully accept it. Throughout the process, there were a lot of breakdowns, there was a lot of crying, there was a lot of anger and frustration, you know. There were a lot of times where I could see my mom losing hope. Even for me, I felt like, you know, there's no hope, you know, like, what else? When, you know, you go to doctors and each time they just tell you there is no solution. You know, when you hear that each time, you feel more hopeless every time. And it's very heartbreaking because what else can you do, you know, besides just wait for the day to be blind. And one incident that happened actually was I went for this charity run by L'Occitane, and I was invited as one of like the guests. So for the guests, you would be paired up with a visually impaired person to guide them during the run. And during the run, I was randomly paired with this lady, and I just had a talk with her, and she shared her story with me that she is a person with RP. And that was like, I don't know, in that moment, I felt like it was fate. You know, I never met another person who had RP, or I never met another blind person, at least, because the doctor said this disease was very rare, you know. So, and when I was paired with her, I felt like it was a sign, you know. And she shared with me how she coped with it. She shared her journey with me. She shared the community, which is Malaysian Association of the Blind, and said how they are a very supportive group, and they come together and have activities together, you know, all visually impaired people. And that was a sign of hope for me. And knowing that, I was so excited. I actually told my mom, you know, there's a community out there for you. There is, you know, you're not alone. You're not alone. That was the most important thing. You're not alone. And there were people that are blind, but they're so supportive. They are so welcoming. And they told me, bring your mom in, you know, let her join us and stuff. And that was the start of, I think, both me and her really truly accepting it, seeing how others were so happy even though they are blind. And I've heard so many stories when I went to the Malaysian Association of the Blind, and that honestly touched me. It touched me so much, and I think it touched my mom as well. And we realized that, you know, there's no point really sulking. At the end of the day, you know, life is gonna throw you a lot of curveballs, and you just gotta really learn to accept and move forward. Yeah. So I think the biggest part, if you talk about accepting, it takes time. It's not a thing that you can force. It's not a thing that you can just say. It's not a decision. It's truly when there's a timing for it, when you truly feel in your heart that this is what I want to do for myself. And, you know, I got to pick myself back up. I got to be strong, you know? And I think that was how me and my mom both kind of faced it. Yeah.
Wow, that was a story to share, because you mentioned earlier on
I
that
hope it's not too long.
it's
Not too long-winded.
yeah, as you were sharing it, I actually almost imagine that I'm there, and I really enjoyed the story. And because initially you talk about, you know, you and your mom was actually losing hope, and then you suddenly, you know, you guys suddenly saw light at the end of the tunnel. And I think that's so important to share, because there are people in the same journey. They might be at the start of a journey, or they might experience, you know, different disabilities or any other issues. And it's so important to let them know that, you know, there is help available, and you guys found that. And yeah, I think that's amazing. Yeah. Now, a lot of people are unaware that while having a disability can greatly impact a person's mental health, it can also severely impact the person closest to him or her, in this case, the carer, as you have shared just now. I mean, how did it affect you as a carer in terms of mental health? I mean, I've known many carers that talk about fear, isolation, and guilt. I mean, I believe it's completely okay to feel like that, but it can be quite hard to manage it alone. Is that something you experienced? How did it affect your mental health?
Definitely everything that you mentioned: fear, guilt, isolation. I felt it all. I think the biggest part for me when all this happened was I was very ashamed. You know, as a carer, I mean, imagine, you know, a girl, early 20s, about to live her life, suddenly having to care for a blind mom, you know? So I felt if I didn't do it, I feel guilt, you know? And I felt like if I did it, it was so much burden. And I also felt isolation, in a sense, like my friends around me don't understand, you know? And also people treated us differently because of something that it's foreign to people, you know? So coping with that was definitely very hard, especially alone. And for me, I think I was not aware that it was eating my mental health until I actually um, met my boyfriend. And I told him about my story, you know, and I said, like, if you're gonna date me, you're gonna date my family. So, you know, like, truthfully. And his first impression, he told me that when he met me, I was a very negative person. And I was like, what? I'm not negative. So that made me think, like, why did he say that? Why did he say I was a very negative person? And I started slowly reflecting, and I was a very negative person because all I could see in my life was my mom is blind. What do I do? And there's no solution. So I was very fixated on that. I couldn't see anything else, but my mind is only that. And I had to be the breadwinner, I had to be the carer. So mentally, I think I was quite depressed, but I was not aware of it. You know, I was not eating well. I was not taking care of myself. So how can you take care of someone else when you're not taking care of yourself? So I felt a lot of emotions bottled up. And oftentimes that's when anger happens between me and my mom. Because imagine, my mom's also not stable mentally, and I'm not stable. So both come together, it's like chaotic. So trust me when I say we went through a lot to come to this point. So I think it's completely normal for anyone out there, if you have a family member who is going through any disability. It is not easy. It is not easy at all because the person depends on you. So you need a lot of love. You need a lot of patience. You need a lot of empathy and compassion to guide you through. And you also have to really keep having hope. Yeah.
Wow, that was really inspiring to hear. I mean, you have shared before that your mom is a single mother. You know, you grow up as someone without a father, and then, you know, and going through all that and not having the understanding of the condition, and then burdened with the mental health issues, and also you mentioned about feeling shame, guilt, and all that. It's so important to share with everyone as well, because a lot of people are experiencing it and feeling guilty to even feel like that, and it's actually part of the process. And it's
It
gonna,
is.
yeah, and it's such a long journey, and it's better if someone like you, your mom, and the blind community are able to share, so that other people can find ways and can find light and can find hope throughout their journey in discovering another new life, you know.
A new
It
new
doesn't have
life.
to be
Yeah, practically
yeah.
it's not the end of your life. In fact, it's a new chapter. And this is something that I always tell my mom. It is a new chapter for you. You know, don't cling on to the past, but this is something new. It's a new challenge. It's something that's gonna grow you more as a person. Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful. I believe that this is also one of the reasons that you decided to join this year's Miss Universe Malaysia 2020. And can you share more about the story behind deciding to join this pageant as well? And I believe that advocating for the blind is the cause that you are championing.
Yes, it's a cause that I'm championing for Miss Universe Malaysia. So what really brought me to join Miss Universe Malaysia, one was I've always wanted to join, but I didn't have the courage to when I was younger because I feared, you know, the standard of Miss Universe is very up there and I couldn't match the standard. That was one. But I realized also after this journey with my mom, it gave me a bigger reason to join. It gave me a purpose, gave me a reason, a very strong reason to use pageantry as a platform to spread this out there. You know, it's not just for fun. It's not just for standing there looking pretty. It's not about that anymore. It's literally beauty beyond you, which is the slogan for Miss Universe Malaysia. So when I saw that, it spoke to me a lot. It made me felt like, I had experience in pageantry, and maybe this is the reason why I went through all this, to stand for people who are not accepted by society, who have disability, who are going through adversity. Maybe this is my purpose, to use my beauty beyond anything else but for other people. So I think that was the biggest reason why. Yeah.
Well, it's all about inclusivity, feeling like
Yes, that's
you're
it.
needed as part of the community. That's right. So what can the community do to support the blind community?
There is a lot, but I think the first one is being able to empathize, because I've heard a lot of stories from the blind people telling me that people can be very mean. Sad to say, but society can be mean towards those that are a little bit different. There was a story that this uncle told me. He said he was waiting for the bus, and how he actually waits for the bus is he would try to touch and search for people there, or he would just say like, hello, is anyone there? And then the person would be there, and then he would say like, can you help me look out for this bus number? Let's say, for example, like 902. And the person would say, okay. And then after that, the person would lead him and say, oh, this is your bus, but actually it was the wrong bus. It was the wrong bus, and then he ended up somewhere else. And he said the worst was one time he sat in a bus. This lady, he sat next to this lady, and the lady said to him, don't sit next to me because later I'll be blind. So there is this stigma that the blind people face, this kind of comments, because there's this Chinese or there's this Asian thing, I'm not sure from where they say if you touch a person's white cane, you're going to be cursed blind.
God.
So, so it's actually very sad to hear all of this, and for me, it was so eye-opening. I could empathize, personally. I'm not blind myself, but I could empathize, and I felt like the first thing for people or society at least is to learn to empathize. When you see a blind person, maybe you could say, do you need help? Maybe just go up to them and say like, oh, could I help you with anything? Could I guide you? Where do you want to go? Simple things like this would make people feel happy. I mean, kindness goes a long way. So it doesn't take much to be kind. And I think that is the biggest start. Yeah.
Oh, I love that tip that, when people think like, oh, what can I do for the blind community? We're thinking quite big things, but what you just mentioned is simple things that doesn't cost anything. So just being able to empathize and to be kind to each other, regardless who you are and where you come from. I really love that. Well, a lot of people out there could be facing something similar, as we mentioned, and it can be really overwhelming and stressful. As a carer for someone with a disability, what are the top 3 things that help you and your mother eventually pull through these hurdles in life?
I think the top 3 things is, first, you have to have a lot of resilience, don't give up. Because when you face something difficult like this, or anything difficult in your life, when your mental health is not taken care of, you would think of ways to end your life. You just want to end the pain. You want to just get it done with, but I would say don't give up. Really, really, really don't give up, because life is more than that. Life is always going to throw you so many curveballs, but the last thing you should ever do is give up. Second for me is to find community, find support, because you are never alone. You're never alone in anything, because as much as we feel like we're alone and our problems are so big, we share a lot of problems with others that we don't even know. And when we see that we're not alone and we have a community that supports it, it gives you hope, because they are an example that it is possible. They've done the impossible and they made it possible. And that gives you a feeling of, wow, if this person can do it, I can do it too. And the third, I think, is to have a lot of love. As simple as it sounds, really, is a lot of love. If I didn't had that love for my mom, it would have been really hard. You know, just really constantly tell yourself through all of this, why are you doing this for? You know, do you really love this person? Do you love this family member? You know, and if you do love them, you're willing to put yourself lesser and put them first. And I think it's a very selfless thing to do, but sometimes that's why I say you got to fill yourself constantly with love and remind yourself every day.
Oh, thank you so
Yeah.
much.
My top 3 things.
That's an amazing sharing, and I definitely agree with you. Like, as easy as it sounds, it's not easy, but not to give up and just constantly revisit the why behind it. And you know, it really grow you as a person as well. So thank you so
Yeah.
much, Karissa, for all the sharing. It really opens up my mind about the blind community, and it's so inspiring to hear about it. Well, all the best to you in your Miss Universe Malaysia 2020 journey. I'm rooting for you. So do your best. Don't
Of course, you have to root for me.
and then, you know, I hope to see you again, especially if we have any topics that we can share about with the public, with Malaysians, so that we can help each other more.
Yes, definitely. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. Thank you for wanting to even be interested in a topic for the blindness. You know, it allows me to share my part, and it's also very good to see that people are wanting to take an interest in this. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Karissa. So I hope all of you enjoy the sharing session, and who knows, hopefully we can see more of Charissa Chong again. So goodbye. See ya.
Right. Bye.